You're listening to Harry Chapin Radio, and we've got a very special interview right now with Pat Fenton, who is a playwright, a journalist, and an author of the forthcoming book called Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. And Pat has actually gone on the road across America to find out about the stories behind Harry's songs. Pat, first, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Why did you choose, as part of the title, the song Remember When the Music?
I'll tell you why, because, Mike, that's always a song that's meant an awful lot to me, especially with the lines like, remember when the music, we believed in things, you know. And that, to me, defines his music in so many ways. And you know what? I mean, the world we're living in now, all you got to do is put on CNN or whatever you listen to. I don't care what your political, not yours, but anyone's beliefs are, if it's you're listening to Fox or CNN or whatever. Man, we are living in a chaotic world, and nobody really seems to believe in anything. I mean, they don't seem to know where they're headed, and in my time, it's one of the first times that I really felt that this country is like kind of adrift, and it's really unanchored, and I don't remember it like that. And I grew up all through the 50s and all. So when I think of those lines like, we believed in things, well, you know what? That, to me, I think a lot of his music was about when we believed in things, you know. And people are finding it harder and harder throughout America. These people I ran into, you know, who worked in paper mills that left town, story after story, you know, and how they closed them down. I remember seeing the one guy in a small town in Candor, when I went up there. Man, it doesn't look like a bad town. It looks kind of nice. He said, yeah, you might say that, but maybe you have a job. You know, he said, there's no jobs here. I'm going to have to leave here, and I don't know where I'm going, you know. So that's why I picked it, because I think it defined his music. And it defined America, too. It was a time we believed in things. We still believe in things. But, man, I think for a lot of folks out there who are getting slammed and out of work and stuff, it's not as easy for them to believe in things.
Remember when the music came from wooden boxes strung with silver wire, and as we sang the words, it would set our minds on fire, for we believed in things, and so we'd sing. Remember when the music brought us all together to stand inside the rain, and as we joined our hands, we'd meet in the refrain, for we had dreams to live, we had hopes to give. Remember when the music was the best of what we dreamed of for our children's time, and as we sang we worked, for time was just a line, a gift we saved, a gift the future gave. Don't you remember when the music was a rock that we could cling to, so we'd not despair? And as we sang, we knew we'd hear an echo fill the air. We'd be smiling then, and we would smile again. Oh, all the times I listened, and all the times I heard, all the melodies I'm missing, and all the magic words, and all the potent voices, and the choices we had then. How I'd love to find we had that kind of choice again. Remember when the music was the glow on the horizon of every newborn day, and as we sang the sun came up to chase the dark away, and life was good, for we knew we could. Remember when the music brought the night across the valley as the day went down? And as we'd hum the melody, we'd be safe inside the sound. And so we'd sleep, for we had dreams to keep. Remember when the music came from wooden boxes strung with silver wire? And as we sang the words, it would set our minds on fire, for we believed in things. And so we'd sing, and so we'd sing.
Pat, how did you even come to want to do this project?
Well, it's a good question, certainly. I'm a writer myself. I've got a couple of plays and stuff. I've written for a lot of newspapers, and I mostly do articles which are kind of feature-type stuff about common people who hang out in bars and people who hang out in, bowling alleys. And his music had a strong influence on me. And at some point, I said to myself, there wasn't anything being written about him. There's that one book that came out years ago that I'm not happy with at all, and I'm not, going to go into anything on that. I've read it. I've written an awful lot about the writer Jack Kerouac, who wrote On the Road. I've published a lot about him. Actually, to the point where I kid around sometimes. I say I'm going to get a sweatshirt saying I just don't write about Jack Kerouac, Now I'm looking to get another sweatshirt, by the way. I just don't write about Harry Chapin, But what I noticed with all the research I did on Jack Kerouac is I would guess 24 books on this man's life, who is also a great American writer. Mm-hmm. And I was amazed, why isn't that for Harry Chapin? It just totally amazes me when I realized that this was a unique American songwriter, singer. Yeah, I might think of a little of a Billy Joel song, or I might think a little bit of a Don McLean song. But he is unique. He's an original American writer, songwriter, performer. And I'm still baffled to this day that there hasn't no books out there on him. And I'll tell you this, I honestly believe my book it's something just to capture a glimpse of him and the people he was writing about. I really believe there's going to be a lot of books in our time coming out on it, biographies, different things, who knows what. So the main reason, the long way around, to answer that question the short way is, I did it really because I really thought there should be something out there, and I was fascinated by him.
Leon wrote a song for his special girl, and Elton and Bernie did too. But you've been mine for such a long time, baby. It's my turn to write one for you, and this the best that this poor boy can do. You see, I don't know what to tell you, babe. I can't say thanks a lot, for I know I really owe you for almost everything I've got. You were with me in the good times and when things were going bad. You were with me when your love was the only thing I had. Yes, I have been a songman for a long, long time, coming up with melodies, trying to find some words that rhyme. And while I have been singing, you've been there to see me long past time. I wrote this song for you. I wanted to keep it simple and not make it too long, but I had hoped to make it beautiful, for after all, it is your song. Yes, you know how I love my music. It's my life and livelihood. But of all that's happened to me, babe, you are everything that's good. And I have been a song man for such a long, long time, coming up with melodies, trying to find some words to rhyme. While I have been singing, you've been there to see me through. So I think it's long past time I wrote this song for you.
How did you come to learn of his music?
I came to learn of his music by a friend of mine. Of course, I knew Taxi, and I even say in the book, in the intro, I drove a yellow cab myself for a while trying to make some bucks, extra bucks in the 70s. And I opened the book up even talking about how I was flying down Central Park West one night, and I was heading back to Ike Stan Taxi Corps out of Long Island City, where I would bring the cab out of, and it was blood work doing that. And I was heading in, and I was flying, man. I had the pedal, like even saying anything, I was almost like, the cab was almost flying. And I had the radio going, and Taxi came on. And it was like, man, I said, God, does it get any better than this? And here I am, Christ, I'm doing 80, and it was late at night. It was wide open. And I was hearing Taxi. I had a friend of mine that started going to a lot of concerts with him and his wife. Then me and my wife started going to them. I went to the Huntington concerts. I went to the Carnegie Hall concert. I was actually talking to Josh Chapin today. Me and him were up in the city, and we were having a beer together and talking about his dad and the book. And I actually have the program I was telling Josh from that night, the original program. There's a couple of beer stains and scotch stains on it. So I went to them, and then my friend had all his albums, and he lent them to me, and I put them on cassettes. So I had all the obscure songs. I had every song you could think of, and I just kept playing them whenever I was driving, and I was fascinated by them. So I just loved his music, and that's how I got introduced to him. And I was doing some freelance writing for a magazine on Long Island, and I wrote a story about the Walt Whitman house in Huntington. And there was a young caretaker living in that place. He was about 37 years old. And I was fascinated by interviewing this young guy, saying, what's it like living in here? And you look out these original windows when it's raining. And he was a poet. And I said, what do you think? Do you think of Walt Whitman? And he told me these really profound things. So I actually wrote a letter to Harry Chapin. I didn't even know where the hell I found out where to send it, saying that would be a great Harry Chapin song. And do you know, I still have the letter, I still have the song idea I sent him. About 5 months later, I got a personal letter from him, signed by him, saying, I think that's a wonderful idea for a song, and I want to have whoever he said it, to remind me of that, of things I should be doing. And then, of course, he died, I think, about a year and a half later. So that's, it was all that influence that made me want to write this. And the other thing, I was in piano bars, and I'd go up to a guy and say, the few that are on Long Island, hey, could you play a Harry Chapin song for me? I don't really know any, you know. It's, you know, I know Cats in the Cradle, that's about it. And, you know, I felt like his music should be bursting out every piano bar on Long Island. You know, frankly, Mike, he has never really gotten his due. They threw like an honorary road race for him and stuff out east. But there definitely should have been more and more events of him. Of course, it's the 30th anniversary of his death, so now we're hearing more about him. But it's been a long time coming, and I think that's going to change coming down the road.
I can see myself, it's golden sunrise. Young boy, open up your eyes. It's supposed to be your day. Now off you go, horizon bound, and you won't stop until you found your own kind of way. And the wind would whip your tousled hair, the sun, the rain, sweet despair, brave tales of love and strife. And somewhere on your path to glory, you will write your story of a life. And all the towns that you walk through, and all the people that you talk to, sing you their songs. And there are times you change your stride, there are times you can't decide, still you go on. And then the young girls dance their gypsy tunes and share the secrets of the moon. So soon you find a wife, and though she sees your dreams go poorly, still she joins your story of a life. So you settle down and the children come, and you find a place that you come from. Your watering is done, and all your dreams of open spaces you find in your children's faces, one by one. And all the trips you know you missed, and all the lips you never kissed, cut through you like a knife. And now you see stretched out before thee just another story of a life. So what do you do now?
What do you do?
When she looks at you now?
What do you do?
You know those same old jokes all the jesters tell, you tell them to her now. And all the same old songs all the minstrels sang, you sing them to her now. But it don't matter anyhow, 'cause she knows by now. So every chance you take don't mean a thing. What variations can you bring to this shop-worn melody? And every year goes by like a tolling bell. It's battered merchandise you sell, not well she can see. And though she's heard it all 1,000 times, couched in your attempted rhymes, she'll march to your drum and fife. But the question echoes up before me, where's my magic story of a life? Now, sometimes words can serve me well, sometimes words can go to hell for all that they do. And for every dream that took me high, this been a dream that's passed me by. I know it's so true. And I can see it clear out to the end, and I'll whisper to her now again, because she shared my life. Far more than all the ghosts of glory, she makes up the story. She's the only story of my life.
It's Harry Chapin Radio, and we're having a conversation with Pat Fenton, the author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music.
Now, if you want, Mike, I could read you a short part of going into Watertown and what I found.
Wow, that would be great. Go ahead, Pat.
With the gloominess of Utica behind me now, I pull onto Route 12 North, and I head up toward Watertown, New York. If I had read my map right, it will take me clear straight through. Up ahead is a long ride through vast stretches and nothing but cornfields and wide empty plains that just go on and on and on. Occasionally you might pass a closed for the winter ice cream stand on the side of the road. I can just imagine Harry Chapin taking this ride, all crunched up in the back seat of a car. It's a long, boring ride most of the way, but after witnessing the desolation of Utica City, so many factory doors just slam shut like a huge rust belt, I don't mind it. In an odd way, it relaxes me. Won't be long now until I'll be finding out what Harry Chapin meant when he once said, "I once spent a week in Watertown one afternoon." As I look at it, the sameness of the farms I pass, I'm starting to get the idea. And then in the emptiness of it all, I see up ahead what looks like an old rural roadhouse. I pass by it and read the sign out, friend. Midnight Madness every Friday night. And I think that's good. They sure could use some Midnight Madness up this way. All the way up in the long stretch of 12 North, I start to pass in and out of rainstorms as I drive through mountain country, through the Adirondacks. Above me is a sky filled with rolling black clouds. I drive in and out of rain. I'm on a dry road now, but in a little while I'll be back in the heavy downpour of a storm. I'm entering Lowville now, passing Country Bob's Restaurant, the Lowville Diner. Sign outside, ham and eggs, it says, with coffee, $2.50. As I get close to the Watertown, I see a sign painted on an old piece of wood by the side of the road. 74 acres of good land for sale. And it strikes me that if you were a man or a woman who wanted to get away from it all, get away from the city, you could come up here to these 74 acres of good country land and make that land yours. And on wintry mornings, you could get down to Lowville Diner for some $2.50 ham and eggs with coffee. I drive on. Man up ahead herding cows across a 2-lane highway and up a high hill, a whole lot of them, dark clouds above them. It looks like a scene from an America that once existed in those grammar school readers, a Winslow Homer scene. John Mellencamp is on the radio now singing, "Oh yeah, don't you know that life goes on long after the living is gone." I glance out the window at a scene on the side of a hill that whizzes by. It's a group of rocks spelling out, "Praise God," and I yell back over my shoulder, "Okay, I will." I think it was in Jack Kerouac's On the Road that he did something like that. Then, of course, it was bound to happen, even way up here. The ugly side of America catches up. A voice interrupts the music station. I have on to announce that this afternoon, a Home Depot employee turned on a bunch of fellow workers and killed all of them. Put Mellencamp back on, for Christ's sake. It's not long before I'm driving into downtown Watertown. When you enter Watertown, you see a town that seems to be coming to you in black and white. Old, gray, all-night diner, saloons, a local radio station, a fetid-looking Greyhound bus depot, a cab stand, and down the block a junkie sits on a bench in the middle of the village green, just staring at the traffic rolling by. I stop at the West Main Street Diner and talk to one of those locals over a cup of coffee, Charles Narrigan, who relives for me the day Harry Chapin came to Watertown, and left behind the mystery of who the fat lady was in his song A Better Place to Be. I was still in high school then, he says. I got out in 76. Let's see, I must have been in the 10th or 11th grade. The concert was held at JCC Community College up here on the hill, pointing out the diner window. It was actually the first concert that I ever went to. I remember when he died. I watched it on TV. Was it crowded? Yeah, I'd say it was. The traffic was heavy that night. It was raining. I remember that. It was raining so hard. I can remember we were waiting for our parents to come and get us. He was quite funny. One thing I remember was that he was asking people in the audience when they first had sex. And one kid hollered out, "I had it when I was 12. And he answered back, "Yeah, you must have had it with yourself." Later, walking down the main street in Watertown, I stopped at a locksmith shop and I asked one of the workers if he remembers the day Harry Chapin came to Watertown. "You're looking for the woman he was writing about in the song about the Midnight Watchman, right?" I tell him, "Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to find the bar where he picked the story up for the song." Rumor has it that she works down at Crystal's Restaurant and Bar. That's just a short way from here in the town square. You could walk it. The main characters in the song, according to Harry Chapin, was a midnight watchman down at Miller's Tool and Die and a big old friendly girl. Supposedly the woman in the song works down there. He says, actually, she don't work there anymore. That's what I heard about 2 or 3 months ago. Z93.3 radio. They're right down there on Mullen Street. They had some kind of a contest, and they were giving away tickets for a concert, and they had people calling in. They asked them if they knew who the broad who served the whiskey was from the Harry Chapin song. And then some woman called in, and she told them that she worked in the Crystal down here. Well, I went by the Crystal Restaurant and Bar at 87 Public Square on the main drag, but ironically, as if to keep any secrets it might hold to itself, it was on the one day they are closed, Monday. The Crystal is a bar restaurant that has been serving up old-fashioned home-style food for 70 years, since 1941. On one side of it is a long, dark bar that runs the length of the restaurant alongside some wooden booths. Peering through the front windows, I can see an old black and white tile floor. It's located in the heart of downtown Watertown, across from the public square. When you think about it, you realize it would be a very convenient place for Harry Chapin and his crew to eat and to sprawl out in after a concert. I go by the radio station, Z93.3, down on Mullen Street, to see what they know about Crystals. I haven't heard Crystal's Bar, says the DJ Lance Thomas. I've heard Coach's Bar and Allen's Diner. He used to serve liquor at Allen's years ago. That's the rumor that this is where that big, heavy-set, friendly woman in the song is supposed to work. Our radio station ran a contest about 2 years ago to try to figure out who this woman was. We had a few women call in who said it was them. He shrugs. Who knows? Maybe one of those women were. We may never know. But it's interesting that the song is still talked about and has become a legend in Watertown, he says. I have to ask you, I say, being a DJ yourself, what do you think of Harry's song on that subject, WOLD? It's a great classic. It's an anthem if you ever done any radio work or worked in small town radio. Anyone who was a morning DJ in radio in the 70s and moved every couple of years, for someone who has been in this business for a long time, that really strikes home.
Hello, honey, it's me. What did you think when you heard me back on the radio? What did the kids say when they knew it was their long-lost daddy? Oh, remember how we listened to the radio and I said that's the place to be, and how I got the job as an FM jock the day you married me. It was 2 kids and I was into AM rock, but I just had to run around. It's been 8 years since I left you, babe. Let me tell you about what's gone down. I am the morning DJ at WOLD, playing all the hits for you wherever you may be. The bright good morning voice who's heard but never seen, feeling all of 45, going on 15. The drinking I did on my last big gig, it made my voice go low. They said that they liked the young sound when they let me go. So I drifted on down to Tulsa, Oklahoma to do me a late night talk show. Now I've worked my way down home again here to Boise, Idaho. That's how this business goes. I am the morning DJ at WOLD, playing all the hits for you, wherever you may be. The bright good morning voice who's heard but never seen, feeling all of 45, going on 15. I'm making extra money doing high school sock hops. I'm the big time guest MC. You should hear me talking to the little children and listen what they say to me. I got a spot on the top of my head, just begging for a new toupee. There's a fire around my gut from sitting on it, but it's never gonna go away. Sometimes I get this crazy dream that I just take off in my car, but you can travel on 10,000 miles and still stay where you are. Thinking that I should stop this jockeying and start that record store. Maybe I could settle down if you take me back once more. Okay, honey, I see. I guess he's better than me. Sure, old girl, I understand. You don't have to worry, I'm such a happy man. I am the morning DJ at WOLD, playing all the hits for you, wherever you may be. The bright good morning voice who's heard but never seen, feeling all of 45, going on 15. I am the morning DJ at WOLD.
Another DJ comes into the room. We talk about A Better Place to Be. Do people talk much in Watertown about that song? Somebody has to stumble on the subject first. Chapin was bigger years ago, but being a classic hit station, we play a couple of his tunes. Once in a while, I'll just blow the dust off of it, and I'll play the live cut of A Better Place to Be. I asked him about Harry Chapin having a character in the song working at a place in Watertown called Miller's Tool and Die. He says there were a lot of tool and die places in Watertown once. They served the nearby paper mills. There were guys working the tool and die shops 24 hours a day. So the guy who did the third shift, he'd leave at 8 a.m. and go home, have his drinks, before he went home and went to bed, top of the bar. I tell him that I can't help but wonder how Harry Chapin could have known about these tool and die places after spending such a short time in Watertown. how could he write a song, I say, like that without talking to someone and hearing that story? He shrugs. Who knows? He was a blue-collar writer, a great storyteller.
This is probably the favorite thing of mine, at least to me, that I've written, and it's about a small town upstate New York called Watertown, New York. That's more than it deserves. I spent a week there one afternoon, and I came away with this story, which is a rather, well, strange tale of a little midnight watchman, a rotund waitress, and a girl he picks up one night, and it's called A Better Place to Be. It was an early morning ballroom, and the place just opened up, and the little man came in so fast, and they started at his cuffs. And the broad who served the whiskey, she was a big old friendly girl who tried to fight her empty nights by smiling at the world. And she said, "Hey, bub, it's been a while since you've been around. Where the hell you've been hiding, and why you look so down?" Well, the little man just sat there like he'd never heard a sound. The waitress, she gave out with a cough, and acting not the least put off, she spoke. Once again, she said, "I don't want to bother you. Consider it's understood. I know I'm not no beauty queen, but I sure can listen good." And the little man took his drink in his hand and he raised it to his lips. He took a couple of sips, and then he told the waitress this story. "I am the midnight watchman down in Miller's Tool and Die, and I watch the metal rusting, I watch the time go by. A week ago at the diner, I stopped to get a bite, and this here lovely lady, she sat 2 seats from my right. And Lord, 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 she was all right. You see, she was so damn beautiful that she could warm a winter frost. But she looked long past lonely, and well nigh found her lost. Now I'm not much of a mover or a pick-em-up easy guy, but I decided to glide on over and give her one good try. And Lord, 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 she was worth a try. Well, I was tongue-tied like a schoolboy. I stammered out some words. It did not seem to matter much, 'cause I don't think she heard. She just looked clear on through me to a space back in my head. It shamed me into silence as quietly she said, "If you want me to come with you, then that's all right with me, 'cause I know I'm going nowhere, and anywhere's a better place to be."
Anywhere's a better place to be. Well, I drove her to my boarding house, and I took her up to my room, and I went to turn on the only light to brighten up the gloom. But she said, please leave the light off. Oh, I don't mind the dark. And as the clothes all tumbled round her, I could hear my heart. The moonlight shone upon her as she lay back in my bed. It was the kind of scene I only had imagined in my head. I just could not believe it, to think that she was real. And as I tried to tell her, she said, shh, I know just how you feel. And if you want to come here with me, then that's all right with me. 'Cause I've been oh so lonely, loving someone is a better way to be. Anywhere's a better place to be. Well, the morning came so swiftly, I held her in my arms, and she slept like a baby, snug and safe from harm. I did not want to share her or dare to break the mood, so before she woke, I went out to buy us both some food. I came back with my paper bag to find that she was gone. She'd left a 6-word letter saying, it's time that I moved on. You know the waitress, she took her bar rag and she wiped it across her eyes. And as she spoke, her voice came out as something like a sigh. She said, I wish that I was beautiful, or that you were halfway blind. And I wish I weren't so goddamn fat. I wish that you were mine. And I wish that you'd come with me when I leave for home. For we both know all about emptiness and living all alone. And the little man looked at the empty glass in his hand, and he smiled a crooked grin. He said, I guess I'm out of gin, and I know we both have been so lonely. And if you want me to come with you, then that's all right with me. 'Cause I know I'm going nowhere, and anywhere's a better place to be.
got the music booming loud now as I leave Watertown. I pass Fat Man's Taxi, and I'm starting to understand just how much Harry Chapin saw America through his writer's eyes. I'm starting to realize that he knew that the ordinary, which is everywhere, is really not ordinary. It's us. It's who we really are. It's 3 in the afternoon. I'm heading down Route 12. I'm heading home. So I fly down Route 12. I put the radio on, and I tune into the station that I just left. Z93, Froggy Radio. I hear Lance Thompson come on. He says on the air that he was just interviewed by Pat Fenton, who's writing a book about Harry Chapin. He says that today is the anniversary of Harry Chapin's death. So he's sending a song out to me and Harry, Taxi.
It was raining hard in Frisco. I needed one more fare to make my night. A lady up ahead waved to flag me down. She got in at the light. Oh, where you going to, my lady blue? It's a shame you ruined your gown in the rain. She just looked out the window. She said 16 Parkside Lane. Something about her was familiar. I could swear I'd seen her face before. But she said, I'm sure you're mistaken. And she didn't say anything more. It took a while, but she looked in the mirror. Then she glanced at the license for my name. A smile seemed to come to her slowly. It was a sad smile, just the same. And she said, how are you, Harry? I said, how are you, Sue? Through the too many miles and the too little smiles, I still remember you. It was somewhere in a fairy tale. I used to take her home in my car. We learned about love in the back of a Dodge. The lesson hadn't gone too far. You see, she was gonna be an actress, and I was gonna learn to fly. She took off to find the footlights. I took off to find the sky. Oh, I've got something inside me to drive a princess blind. There's a wild man reason he's hiding in me, illuminating my mind. Oh, I've got something inside me, but it's not what my life's about. 'Cause I've been letting my outside drive me over till my time runs out.
There was not much more for us to talk about. Whatever we had once was gone. So I turned my cab into the driveway, past the gate and the fine trim lawns. And she said, we must get together, but I knew it'd never be arranged. Then she handed me $20 for a $2.50 fare. She said, Harry, keep the change. Well, another man might have been angry, and another man might have been hurt, but another man never would have let her go. I stashed the bill in my shirt, and she walked away in silence. It's strange how you never know, but we'd both gotten what we'd asked for such a long, long time ago. You see, she was gonna be an actress, and I was gonna learn to fly. She took off to find the footlights, I took off for the sky. And here she's acting happy inside a handsome home, and me, I'm flying in my taxi, taking tips and getting stoned. I go flying so high when I'm stoned.
How it goes. I landed in Watertown, the anniversary of the passing away of Harry Chapin, and I didn't realize it. But I'm glad I wound up getting them to play a song for Harry. Odd how the Crystal, a bar that some residents of Watertown believe is the bar that the barmaid in A Better Place to Be worked, is closed today.
Wow, what a great story. This is Harry Chapin Radio, and we're speaking with Pat Fenton, who is the author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. Pat, tell us some more about some of the people that you interviewed on that trip.
I interviewed people all the way up through Utica, New York, and these small little towns. People, I went into all the side street bars up there where people don't go, and this guy's drinking in there at like 11 in the morning. They're out of work, and a lot of them worked for the factories. They worked for Remington when it was up there, Remington, making ammo, military bullets and stuff. And I asked them, what did they think of Harry Chapin, and did they listen to him? And I got all these great stories from them. And the other thing I got was their story. And that's why Harry Chapin's music was about America. That's why this book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music, it's about America too. It's about the America he's seen. And I've said, even when I talked to Sandy Chapin, when I first told her what I was going to do with this, and we were both agreed on this, that I'm not looking to write a biography or some tome on him. I'm looking to capture a piece of who he was. That's all I want to do, and hopefully a lot of other people will come along down the road, and there'll be more and more books on his life. And by doing that, you have to capture part of his America. And that's what these guys told me. Their stories about how all the factories left, and there's nothing up in Utica and all these places. And I actually put quotes in from like the days they closed the factories down, in different parts of the songs. And they all had great stories to tell. I mean, they were going down Main Street in Utica, it was the same thing. You see the neon bar signs with Genesee beer, and you see the old Woolworths is long gone out of town, and the logo might be still up there, or the imprint of it, but what you see left, and now it's a thrift store. if you go into the bars, they're drinking in there at 11 in the morning, and if they trust you, and I've always been pretty good like that, talking to people, they'll tell you their story, and they all told a version of the same story, how the paper mills left town. If you go into this little town, I think it's called Brownsville up there, how Remington left town, how they all depended on that. And then they'll tell you what they thought of Harry Chapin, and how he affected them. And they're literally, Mike, like live in their own Harry Chapin song.
She said, I watch him walk down Main Street, a sweet one-man parade. He'd tip his hat, and just like that, another score he'd made. I'd watch the girls, I'll watch him, malts drawn for the flame. The money showed, the laughter flowed from the way he played the game. He played the game. Some said he was a rambler, some said he was a rake. Some said he was a gambler, some said he was a fake. But I knew him like no one else, a gentleman was he. His days belonged to himself, his nights belonged to me, belonged to me. And they're talking in the town square, in the taverns and the shops. I hear them talking everywhere, their talking never stops. But all their words of wisdom won't make you go away. The day they closed the factory down, I had nothing left to say. She said to take care of my mother now, since my father died. I'm raising baby brother Tim the way my father tried. His 30 years in the factory ended in that furnace blast. But they settled up for $10 a week, and the bitterness is past. It did not last. So they're moving somewhere else now with their cloths and fabric press. They've found themselves another town where they'll make shirts for less. And that is why he said last night he won't watch the old town die. But I would not take what he tried to me when he told me goodbye. Oh, it's goodbye. And they're talking in the town square, in the taverns and the shops. I hear them talking everywhere, their talking never stops. But all their words of wisdom won't make you go away. The day they close the factory down and nothing left to say. So they're talking of the changes the closing brings about. Talking of the hard times and the young folks moving out. Yes, they're talking as if talking can make everything alright. But all the talking never done won't bring him back tonight. And they're talking in the shops. I hear them talking everywhere. Their talking never stops, but all their words of wisdom won't make you go away. The day they closed the factory down, I had nothing left to say.
He really nailed it with that song, didn't he, Pat?
That's one of the things that I loved about Harry Chapin, because there's so many people who are like living in a Harry Chapin song. I mean, he caught that. He caught our simple lives, and he made stories out of them. And I think that's why people love them. They said, you know, I am important. Somebody's writing about my life, you know. And it's almost like the only comparison, and not in voice or music or talent or anything, but in that kind of song, I would think of maybe Bruce Springsteen, when he wrote something like Jersey Girl, and then that type of thing. But they have a story to tell, and you can there's something no one you don't meet up there who knows who Harry Chapin is, more so than in New York, and that's a very interesting thing, to see.
What was it like traveling around to get these stories?
Some of them were long trips. I crisscrossed the country. Went through little towns like Sandwich, Massachusetts, up in Cape Cod, and just go into some shop and start asking some woman about, did you ever listen to Harry Chapin's music? Yeah, I did. And some woman, would you have a favorite song? And I remember this woman saying to me, yeah, I do. And she was running like a small shop. It was like a converted church, and they were selling antiques or knickknacks. She had Cats in the Cradle. When I first heard Cats in the Cradle, she said, I never really thought that much of it. But then when I got older, I listened to it, and there's so much truth in that song. I said, why? She said, I learned. I said, where'd you learn? Well, I learned it's true about men. A lot of them just want to go off and play golf, and they leave the young ones behind.
Child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking for I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay, and he walked away, but his smile never dimmed and said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, he came from college just the other day. So much much like a man, I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. I've long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids are the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. We're gonna have a good time then.
It's Harry Chapin Radio, and of course that's the song that Tom Chapin has often said is going to outlive all of us and has put more fathers ill at ease than any other song in history. We're speaking with Pat Fenton, who is the author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. And Pat, let's shift gears and talk about another song from the Verities in Balderdash album, 30,000 Pounds of Bananas. What'd you find out about that one?
It took me days to find out the real story. But he has, I'm telling you, he's dead on with the facts in that. How he did that, I don't know. People hear 30,000 pounds of bananas, they think, well, hey, that's a really hell of a fun song. Well, of course it's not. It's a real event. I researched it. I spent time in Scranton, and I should say that our family has like a trailer on the lake up in the Scranton area, so I go up there a lot. And I used to throw that song on and play it full blast whenever we were going down to what used to be an old roadhouse, a restaurant now to eat. And I would play that going down there. And it took me a while, but I have copies of the original newspaper clips of that crash of a real banana truck that actually crashed. I was at the site where it crashed. It's horrendous. It ain't funny at all. I mean, Eugene Tess was the name of the man driving the trailer for A&P. And the road you ride going into Scranton, where the guy lost his brakes, where Harry was going through on the Greyhound bus, I think it's 347, but don't hold me to that. It's like a roller coaster. There's warning signs, and there again, he nailed all of that. Where he said, shift to low gear now. There's warning signs to slow up, and took down about 8 telephone poles, sideswiped about 5 cars. Damn near ran over a whole bunch of school kids playing in it was like a statue like in the middle of the road. And he tried to avoid them, and then that's actually how he got killed. But I actually ran into someone by accident who was selling fruit up there at a fruit stand I used to go to, and he turned out to be his first cousin. And I said to him, you know anything, you ever hear about that banana, the trailer that crashed up? He said, did I ever hear about it? I said, yeah, over there on 307 or 347, whatever it is. And we were right near it. He said, you know what? And I swear to God, that's what he was on tape. He said, you know what? You just raised the hair on the back of my neck. My cousin Eugene was driving that trailer. And I knew that because once he told me, I knew he was telling me the truth because I'd seen that. And he told me his whole story, not only about Eugene Sesky. I asked him would he mind if I put a tape recorder on. I was writing a book about him, and he agreed. And he told me the whole story about his family and how they had the family gatherings, and Eugene would come to it. And it was such a folky type tale. And at one point he would interject things like, we all met down not far from here. We'd call to the old homestead. Eugene would be there, and folks don't do that anymore. And every Sunday we'd have Sunday dinner. They stopped doing it. And I love those little kind of Harry Chapin things almost. And he even said something like how he went and started driving a trailer. And my mother didn't like it. She said, not after what happened to Cousin Eugene.
Just after dark when the truck started down the hill that leads into Scranton, Pennsylvania, carrying 30,000 pounds of bananas. Carrying 30,000 pounds, hit it, Big John, of bananas. He was a young driver, just out on his second job, and he was carrying the next day's pasty fruits for everyone in that cold scarred city where children play without despair in backyard slag piles, and folks manage to eat each day about 30,000 pounds of banana. Yes, just about 30,000 pounds. Dreaming again, John, of bananas. He passed a sign that he should have seen, saying shift the low gear, a $50 fine, my friend. He was thinking perhaps about the warm-breathed woman who was waiting at the journey's end. He started down the 2-mile drop, the curving road that wound from the top of the hill. He was pushing on through the shortening miles that ran down to the depot. Just a few more miles to go, then he'd go home and have her ease his long cramped day away, and the smell of 30,000 pounds of bananas. Yes, the smell of 30,000 pounds of bananas. He was picking up speed as the city spread its twinkling lights below him, but he paid no heed as the shivering thought of the night's delights went through him. His foot nursed the brakes to slow him down, but the pedal floored easy without a sound. He said, Christ, it was funny how he had named the only man who could save him now. Was trapped inside a dead-end hillside, riding on his fear hunchback was everywhere one of those yellow-green, I'm telling you, 30,000 pounds of bananas. Yes, there were 30,000 pounds of bananas. Curve that led into the steepest grade, and he missed the thankful passing bus at 90 miles an hour, and he said, God, make it a dream, as he rode his last ride down. He said, God, make it a dream, as he rode right down, and he sideswiped 19 neat parked cars, clipped off 13 telephone poles, hit 2 houses, bruised 8 trees, and Blue Cross 7 people. It was then he lost his head, not to mention an arm or two before he stopped. And he smeared for 400 yards along the hill that leads into Scranton, Pennsylvania. All those 30,000 pounds of bananas. the man who told me about it on the bus says it went up the hill out of Scranton, Pennsylvania. He shrugged his shoulders, he shook his head, and he said, and this is exactly what he said, "Boy, it sure must have been something. Just imagine 30,000 pounds of bananas. Yes, there were 30,000 pounds of mashed bananas. Of bananas. Of bananas. Just bananas. 30,000 pounds of bananas. Not no driver now, just bananas.
Hey, thanks for listening to Harry Chapin Radio as we continue our interview with Pat Fenton, who is a playwright and a journalist and an author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. And Pat, it's so true how Harry found a way to turn these real-life situations into story songs.
He had this incredible ability to take these things, whether they were tragedies, and he was talking about Sniper, and to put them into like the prose that he did and capture a part of America. That's a lost art in itself, you know, a folk-telling type thing.
And when you think about some of his story songs, of course, as a storyteller, some of it was truth and some of it was maybe not quite so true. The whole title of the Verities in Balderdash album kind of comes to mind. But with all these stories and just trying to think about where's the truth and where's the fiction, is that kind of what motivated you to go find out?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and of course he had the right to do that. Any writer doing that sort of thing. I mean, if you look at Hank Williams' songs, there's a lot of truth in those songs too. I was doing some DJing myself, the small station out here in the island on WGBB for a while. I would play Hank Williams and Jerry Lee Lewis and stuff, but I wouldn't just play them. I'd tell the story behind them. As a writer, I would write that story and narrate it on the air and, you know, play the songs and tell them something they didn't know, say, about Hank Williams. The reason I bring that up is Hank Williams has written songs about his wife. He's written about a lot of things. Were those songs all actually true to life? No. I mean, you add stuff in. Harry, of course, did that. That did fascinate me. I tell you what, Mike, that part of the mystery, yeah, that's part of the chase, doing that. And I did find out some things, and some of them, I'll be honest with you, I'm still working on, because the book is, you know, it's just about, it's there. I mean, I have this huge manuscript on my desk as we talk.
Just some incredible stories that you unearthed, stories about the stories, which, you know, so many of Harry's songs had these mysteries to them, you know? I mean, yeah. Mr. Tanner. What did you find out about that one?
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you, Mike. I'm almost like reluctant to say what I think I found out about it, because I really don't want to disappoint anyone, you know. But and by the way, I stumbled on recently by accident, and I'm going to research it more because it fascinated me. In Mr. Tanner, you know, everyone thinks that the real gentleman he wrote about, you know, he said he was from Dayton, Ohio, you know. I believed that too in the beginning, you know. And I thought, Jesus, there's another great song. I jumped around the internet and found the actual New York Times article. And two things I found out. One is that, as most of the Harry Chapin fans know, that Harry wrote that after seeing a little review, right, in the New York Times, you know.
Right.
And here's the two things I found out. This Mr. Tanner, it was a Tubert, I mispronounced his name, or his real name, right?
Right.
I believe it's an Irish name. It's not a common Irish name. Anyway, the real Mr. Tubert, played at the town hall in New York City. And I have the actual clip of it. I don't have it in my hand, not the actual clip. I have a copy of it that I got from the internet. And if you see it, it says, Mr. Martin Tubridy came, but he wasn't prepared, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, holy Christ, this thing is only one tiny graph, And he took that, and so much of it is so true to what it's saying. He wasn't prepared, blah, 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 he tried. So that fascinated me, that again, he could walk out the door with a song like that. I'm a writer, and I write about common people, and if you will, and common folks, which I come out of. And Christ, I couldn't see myself doing that. But here's the thing that I don't know if a lot of people realize that. So he sees this review in the New York Times, and he writes that song. But then this Martin Tubridy went again to the town hall and got a second shot at it, okay? So they reviewed him again, and again they didn't give him a good review. So there's two reviews, but here's the thing. It jumped out at me when I was looking at it. It said, Mr. Martin Tubridy, it says something like from New York. And I had read by that so many times, and I was rereading it, I said, wait a minute, what did that say from New York? This is the New York Times. Now, the Times, they're pretty strict with that type of thing.
Right.
And I thought, well, geez, if he was from Dayton, Ohio, and they did these two little reviews on him, wouldn't they say from Dayton, Ohio, and would they make a mistake like that? And maybe they did, I don't know. And I could be wrong. Part of me kind of hopes I am wrong. But it don't matter, though, when I really thought it out. I was actually talking to Harry's son Josh about this recently. Does it really matter? Because here's the thing. I wanted to go down to Dayton, Ohio, and look for Mr. Tanner, Martin Tubridy. And I was thinking about doing that, and adding it to the book. But I can't do that if he didn't come from Dayton, Ohio. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I'll tell you what. The evidence that I'm seeing, it does make me wonder about it. It's another part of the mystery. But if it turns out to be true, wouldn't it be great? I would want to then go research further and try to find out where this man lived up in Manhattan and what he did and all. I'm sure, Harry probably added the thing about him being a close mate, because that's not in there at all in the Times thing. But that'd be fascinating, too. It's another part of that mystery, and that's what really, it makes this, what he did, even more magnificent, if you will.
Yes, it does, and I know just about a year or two ago, the reporter for the New York Times who wrote that first scathing review, as Harry described it, died. And in his obituary, they mentioned the fact that he was the critic who wrote that story that was eventually used in Harry Chapin's Mr. Tanner.
You see, I didn't know that. That's very interesting, too,
Imagine having that be part of your obituary, and I wonder what that reporter thought about his review being used in that song.
Those are really good questions, and it again, like, which I always think, and I can't help thinking it, again, it almost like when you talk about some of these things, they almost sound like Harry Chapin songs, the guy dying, and that becomes as a picture.
It's like a story in a story, just like A Better Place to Be.
Exactly. The guy has to say to himself I destroyed this poor guy, probably. He had to destroy him, But what fascinates me is how Harry Chapin had he was such a visionary, and how he could look behind what he read and see something. Like somebody said something to me recently, and again, I was talking to Josh today, actually, about writing and stuff. And the two of us were just sitting around having a beer together and talking about writing. And I said to him, Josh, somebody once came up to me after I read, and they said, I listen to you, and you have the ability in your stories. And again, I'm not trying to blow my own whistle or anything, but you have the ability in your stories to look around at something ordinary and to slow it down and stop it and to see something that most people just never see. They're too busy going by. And it hit me, and I stared at them. It was a young woman. I said, kidding around, I said, yeah, I see dead people, you know. But the more I thought about it, I never forgot that. And I said, what a profound thing. She's absolutely right. Anyone who really writes has that ability to see things that most people, it just goes right by them. They slow it down, they look at it. And that is exactly what he was doing, Harry Chapin. He had that ability. And he had it like at a very extremely high level, you know, that he could see something that we weren't seeing. And, you know, genius is a word that you certainly don't throw around lightly. But, man, I would throw it Harry Chapin's way.
Mr. Tanner was a cleaner from a town in the Midwest, and of all the cleaning shops around, he'd made his the best. He also was a baritone who sang while hanging clothes. He practiced scales while pressing tails and sang at local shows. His friends and neighbors praised the voice that poured out from his throat. They said that he should use his gift instead of cleaning coats. But music was his life, it was not his livelihood. And it made him feel so happy, and it made him feel so good. He sang from his heart, and he sang from his soul. He did not know how well he sang, it just made him whole. His friends kept working on him to try music out full time. A big debut and rave reviews, a great career to climb. Finally they got to him, he would take the fling. A concert agent in New York agreed to have him sing. There were plane tickets, phone calls, money spent to rent the hall. It took most of his savings, but he'd gladly used them all. But music was his life, it was not his livelihood. And it made him feel so happy, and it made him feel so good. He sang from his heart, and he sang from his soul. He did not know how well he sang, it just made him whole. The evening came, he took the stage, his face set in a smile. In the half-filled hall, the critics sat, watching on the aisle. The concert was a blur to him, spatters of applause. He did not know how well he sang, he only heard the flaws. But the critics were concise, it only took 4 lines, and no one could accuse them of being overkind. Mr. Martin Tanner, baritone of Dayton, Ohio, made his town hall debut last night. He came well prepared, but unfortunately his presentation was not up to contemporary professional standards. His voice lacks the range of tonal color necessary to make it consistently interesting. Full-time consideration of another endeavor might be in order. He came home to Dayton and was questioned by his friends, but he smiled and just said nothing, and he never sang again. Excepting very late at night when the shop was dark and closed. He sang softly to himself as he sorted through the clothes. music was his life. It was not his livelihood, and it made him feel so happy, and it made him feel so good, and he sang from his heart, and he sang from his soul. He did not know how well he sang, it just made him.
It's Harry Chapin Radio. We're speaking with Pat Fenton, the author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. And Pat, I wonder with that song, Mr. Tanner, when you talk about how much Harry saw in other people, how much he saw of himself when he wrote that song, with all the negative reviews he got.
Oh, I think he definitely, that's really part of the reason. I think you write that type of thing because you know other people are going to, they're going to share that. And anyone who's been reviewed, thank God most of the times the reviews are good, but I remember one out of Boston once, in the Boston Herald, someone just tore into me, man, you know, and it hurt, you know, and I remember saying to one of my actor friends, like I said, Christ, look what this woman wrote about me, you know, and they said something like, Pat, you can't let that bother you, man, you know, I mean, I'm an actor, I get reviews all the time, you know, and yeah, so I think, here's the other thing. That's a very good question, Mike, because what I found when I went out there, kind of like looking for Harry Chapin, if you will, I found that where you'll really find him, like, you know, Walt Whitman, the poet, once said in Leaves and Grass, you'll look for me, you can look in the dirt looking for my footsteps. I'm paraphrasing that a lot of this. You know, you'll find me in my poetry, you'll find me here. That was so true. And I think it's true with Harry, with that Whitman analogy I was just tossing out, is that I found him, I think, in his music. And after all those things I did, it's one of the things I say in the book, manuscript, that I realized where he was. He was in his music. And so that is so true. And I think when he would see something like that interview, he would write that, you know, all that stuff. I mean, so that is true. I think he's seen a lot of his songs reflected that. Sniper is a very complicated song, you know. There's something he was saying in that, you know. I'm not quite sure what it is, but there is something that he's yelling out in that. I mean, you know, he's hurting in that. There's absolutely no doubt. I don't think it's only the person that he's writing about, the real life person. You know, I think he's writing about, you know, pain. You know, you certainly don't justify anything in that song what that guy did, but if you look for Harry Chapin, I mean, if you're really looking for him, I think you'll find him in the songs. And I've been fortunate enough to be privy to some personal things that Harry Chapin has written that people haven't read as fans or anything like that. I have a copy, as a matter of fact, of something that I just finished reading that he wrote when he was about 22 years old, and it's almost like a diary. In fact, I would call it a diary, you know, and he's only 22 and he's writing it. I certainly wouldn't read it on the air, and the only reason I wouldn't is because I was given that privilege to read it by a member of the Chapin family, and what I find it is extremely revealing, and what I walked away with after reading it, it's a very long, spontaneous type of piece of writing, and it's a wonderful piece of writing, is that I said, yeah, okay, this ties in exactly with what I was looking for and what I found. This ties in with his music, who he was, and again, it's very candid, but again, it goes back to, if you're looking for him, you'll find him in his music. And what I walked away from with all this research this was a damn good man. He was a person like all of us, just, trying to get along with all the trouble and strife in life. This is a person we'll never see again. We won't see the likes of him again. And I'm glad I was able to. It helped me a lot by looking at some personal stuff that hasn't been published. Not that it won't be published, and it will. In fact, I'm encouraging that particular things I've seen that they should be published. It's great stuff. People will understand them even more. But if you want to really understand them, listen to his music, because he was the real deal. There's nothing more a man can give.
It's interesting that you talk about, even in the song Sniper, you might find parts of Harry, and it's not just about, the actual sniper who killed all those people. I think about how Harry always talked about desperately wanting to matter and wanting his life to have some kind of impact. And you think about the last verse of that song, I was, I am, and now I will be. And the acts that sniper took certainly made an impact, and he lives in infamy. But you think about Harry 30 years later, people still celebrating his life, and he still is all these years later.
You know what, Mike, you really have, you've really hit on some good points, and they're so right on the money, man. I believe and to what you're just saying now, when I had his dad Jim, I had mentioned to you off the air, I had his dad Jim on a radio show I was doing at WGBB, and I had him on twice. I have tapes of that, and me and you were talking about possibly putting them on a CD and and let people hear them. That's so true. And one of the things I got in the book is where his father Jim Chapin says to me, he talks about Sniper, and he says, that's an incredible song, Pat. And he, like you, he quoted from a part of it. He says something about where he said he looked at the sky and he looks at, I'm going to kill it because I don't have the thing in front of me and I want to do that, but, and no one who knew him or something.
He looks for a shadow, it cannot be found.
Exactly. And Jim Chapin, off the top of his head, I assume it was off the top of his head, I was interviewing him, he was coming to me out of Florida over a phone hookup. Ben, he read that whole thing out, and he said, Jesus, he said, that's like pure poetry almost, about a person. Now that, again, is certainly something that Harry understood. I mean, this psychopath, he still was like looking at him as if to say, like, well, you know what, he probably wasn't always this way. And again, he's not trying to justify it or anything. Again, I think of like an old Hank Williams song, where he talks, there's a great song called The Tramp on the Street. If you try to trace Harry Chapin back more, I would love to find out how much he listened to Hank Williams, if he ever listened to his music, I got to ask Sandy that if she knows, because there are even tie-ins with him, where there's a song called A Tramp on the Street, where Hank Williams said, he's only a tramp on the street. It talks about people walking by him. But once he was young, once he was fair, he was some mother's darling. And now he's like a tramp on the street. I mean, what a great line. He was some mother's darling. I mean, that makes us all think, Jesus, yeah, how many kids are so innocent and young, and you see them, hit at the bottom of the barrel. And I think that Harry Chapin and his music was doing the same thing that Hank Williams was doing. He was able to tell a story that we would never stop and think of. We walk by the tramp on the street.
He found the humanity in all of the characters that he wrote about, the good and the bad.
So true. And the good and the bad, man, you couldn't have, that's so true.
She said not now, she said not now, she said not now, she said not now. It is an early Monday morning, the
The sun is becoming bright on the land. No one is watching as he comes a-walking. 2 bulky suitcases hang from his hands. He heads towards the tower that stands in the campus. He goes through the door, he starts up the stairs. The sound of his footsteps, the sound of his breathing, the sound of the silence, but no one was there. Catwalk, he put down his burden. The 4-sided clock began to chime. 7 a.m., the day is beginning. So much to do and so little time. He looks at the city where no one had known him. He looks at the sky where no one looks down. He looks at his life and what it has shown him. He looks for his shadow, it cannot be found. He was such a moody child, very hard to touch. Even as a baby, he never smiled too much, no. You bug me, she said. You're ugly, she said. Please hug me, I said. But she just sat there with the same flat stare that she saves for me alone when I'm home. When I'm home, take me home. He laid out the rifles, he loaded the shotgun, he stacked up the cartridges along the wall. He knew he would need them for his conversation. If it went as he planned, then he might use them all. He said, listen, you people, I've got a question. You won't pay attention, but I'll ask anyhow. Will get me an answer. Been waiting to ask you till now. Right now, I am a lover who's never been kissed. Am I am a fighter who's not made a fist. Am I, if I'm alive, then there's so much I've missed. How do I know I exist? First words he spoke took the town by surprise. One got Mrs. Gibbons above her right eye. It blew her through the window, wedged her against the door. Reality poured from her face, staining the floor. Was questioned as he stepped from his car. Tom Scott ran across the street, but he never got that far. The police were there in minutes. They set up barricades. He spoke right on over them in a half
mile circle in that dumbstruck city. His pointed questions were sprayed. He knocked over Danny Tyson as he ran towards the noise. Just about then the ants started coming, sweet, sweet joy. Thudding in the clock face, winding off the walls, reaching up to where he sat there answering calls. 37 people got his message so far. Yes, he was reaching them right where they are. Not now, she said, not now. She said, not now. They set up an assault team. They asked for volunteers. They had to go and get him. That much was clear. And the word spread about him on the radios and TV. Inappropriately sober tones they asked, who can it be? He was a very dull boy, very taciturn, not much of a joiner. He did not want to learn. No. They're coming to get me. They don't want to let me stay in the bright light too long. It's getting on noon now. It's going to be soon now. But oh, what a wonderful song. Mama, won't you nurse me? Rain me down the sweet milk of your kindness, Mama. It's getting worse for me. Won't you please make me warm and mindless, Mama? Yes, you have cursed me. I never will forgive you for your blindness. I hate you. The wires are all humming for me, and I can hear them coming for me. Soon they'll be here, but there's nothing to fear. Not anymore, though they blasted the door. As the copter dropped the gas, he shouted, who cares? They could hear him laughing as they started up the stairs. They stormed out on the catwalk, blinking at the sun. With their final fusillade, his answer had come.
Pat, tell us about how you researched the song, What Made America Famous?
If you're going to write about Harry Chapin songs, the thing really is to go where the people he wrote about are, and that's what I did. Like in Point Lookout, I went into the local bar in downtown. It's like, blue-collar hangout. And of course, they had their own version of it, of what happened that night with the welfare house, if you will, burning down. And, that was interesting, too,
What did the folks that you interviewed have to say about that song?
They weren't happy with it. Yeah, but so, you got to understand Port Lookout is only about, I think it's, the whole radius of the whole damn thing, it's about 11 blocks, Everybody knows everyone. They know who the outsiders are. It's a small resort, summer town. And when you come in like me, they spot you right away, and you walk into a bar, it's like, yeah, what do you want? Barmaid will tell you. And one of the ladies was younger when Harry was down there, and at the same time, they said, nah, you should have never wrote that. They didn't do that. The fireman never let a place burn down like that. I knew them. I knew all of them. I knew who the guy was that he said was I forget, like the smiley fat man or something. She said things like, at the same breath, like how they liked Harry Chapin being there. She did anyway. She went up to one of his concerts up in the village, But, that's to be expected though, Mike.
Sure.
I mean, I come from a very blue-collar, small-townish part of Brooklyn. Windsor Terrace, Irish working class. And to this day, they curse people out like Pete Hamill and all, and they get upset with me once in a while too if I write a close story in the New York Times or Daily News about them. So they basically, the ones I spoke to, they didn't agree with it. What else would you expect? Again, it captures a piece of America. They certainly weren't happy that those welfare people were down in town there, and they let you know that. So.
But I guess it almost could have been any town in America. Isn't that kind of the essence of that story?
It could be. It probably could be any small town in America, but I wouldn't be that quick to paint it with that broad of a brush. You have to be a very tight, conservative neighborhood where everyone knows everyone has the same routine, and then all of a sudden, not only the tread, what they consider treads, the new faces come into town, but they move into a hotel or a building that the welfare, agencies put them up in, which was probably a bad idea on the face of it. I mean, why not blend something into a town rather than just have an abrupt change right away, but I suppose it does, and that's probably what made the song so famous, that it could reflect a lot of a universal theme in small towns, a change, and that is true, a lot of what you're saying.
It was the town that made America famous. The church is full and the kids all gone to hell. 6 traffic lights and 7 cops, and all the streets kept clean. The supermarket and the drugstore and the bars all doing well. Now they were the folks that made America famous. Our local fire department stocked with short-haired volunteers. And then Saturday night, while America boozes, the fire department showed dirty movies. The lawyer and the ghost are seeing their dreams come to life on the movie screen, while the plumber hopes that it won't be seen as he tries to hide his fears, and he wipes away his tears. But something's burning somewhere. Does anybody care? We were the kids that made America famous. The kind of kids that long since drove our parents to despair. We were lazy, long hairs dropping out, lost, confused and copping out, convinced our futures were in doubt and trying not to care. We lived in the house that made America famous. It was a rundown slum, the shame of all the decent
and folks in town. We're hippies and some welfare cases, crowded families of cold black faces, cramped inside some cracked old boards, the best that we all could afford, but still too fine for the rich landlord to ever tear it down. And we could hear the sound of something burning somewhere. Is anybody there? We all live the life that made America famous. Our cops would make a point to shadow us around our town. And we loved children, put a swastika on the bright red firehouse door. America, the beautiful, it makes a body proud. And then came the night that made America famous. Was it carelessness or someone's sick idea of a joke? In the tinderbox trap that we hippies lived in, someone struck a spark. At first I thought that I was dreaming, then I saw the first flames gleaming and heard the sound of children screaming coming through the smoke. And something's burning somewhere. Does anybody care? The fire that made America famous. The sirens wailed and the firemen stumbled, sleeping from their homes. And when the plumber yelled, "Come on, let's go," they saw what was burning and said, "Take it slow, let them sweat a little, they'll never know. And besides, we just cleaned the chrome," said the plumber, "then I'm going alone." In the fire truck and raised the ladder to the ledge. Well, me and my girl and a couple of kids were clinging like bats to the edge. We staggered to salvation and collapsed on the street. And I never thought that a fat man's face would ever look so sweet. I shook his hand in the scene that made America famous. And I smiled from the heart that made America great. We spent the rest of that night in the home of this man that we'd never known before. It's funny when you get that close, it's kinda hard to hate. I went to sleep with the hope that made America famous. I had the kind of a dream that maybe they're still trying to teach in school, of the America that made America famous. And of the people who just might understand that how together, yes we can, create a country better than the one we have made of this land. We have the choice to make each man who dares to dream, reaching out his hand, a prophet or just a crazy damn dreamer of a fool. Yes, a crazy fool. And something's burning somewhere. Does anybody care? Is anybody there? Is anybody there?
We're speaking with Pat Fenton, author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. So, Pat, Why do you think his legacy among his fans is still so strong and that he's still so loved 30 years after he's gone?
Because he was writing about them, you know, and it's like that's why there's only so many people that wrote about, he was writing about ordinary folks, and most of his fans are ordinary folks, and of course there's a mixed bag of that too. I'm sure there's some very well-to-do people, and why not? I mean, that love Harry's music. But even those people, no matter what your social status might be, they understood, I mean, you know, what he was writing about. And I think it was the musician David Amran, who I interviewed, who was a friend of mine, and I interviewed him backstage. David was, he's been around for years. He's a talented man. He probably the only guy I know. He's still out there doing gigs in his 80s. He's probably pretty close to trying to catch up with Harry Chapin and doing that many gigs. And he told me, and I mentioned it in the book, about how he met him. He would meet him on planes. The two of them were crisscrossing the country, and Harry would be going down to Washington, and he said to me, he said, I'd be talking to him. He said, look, David, I don't want to be rude. I'd run into him on a plane. You travel that much, David. I'm going to crash in the back. The stewardesses, I take this flight coming down here, sometimes they let me crash back there where there's more room to sleep, because he, like David said, he was constantly, you know, he'd stay up late and be traveling around. And one of the things he said to me is basically what, to answer that question that you're saying, is he wrote about people like Bruce Springsteen wrote about people, and they knew he was writing about them and who they were and their ordinary lives. And they don't forget that. Well, I interviewed an awful lot of fans, people in gas stations and bowling alleys, clear across through Utica. They all said the same thing. He was writing about us.
Turning on my pillow, thinking kinda strange. The color is of midnight in this room. The car's outside a coffin, and it's kind of hard to sleep. And there's neon out the window, not the moon. And it was just an any old kind of day, the kind that comes and slips away, the kind that fills up easy my lifetime. The night brought any old kind of dark. I heard the ticking of my heart. Then why am I thinking something's left behind? I whistled round today, and I skipped up a footloose jig to the hurdy-gurdy music of the street. I looked up past those rooftops, and I saw the cloudless sky. But I keep on asking why my life is passing by, and I'm left up high and dry. But it ain't no good to cry, so I shrug my useless sigh, and I trust the things that other days will meet. And it was just an any old kind of day, the kind that comes and slips away, the kind that fills up easy my lifetime. The night brought any old kind of dark. I heard the ticking of my heart. Then why am I thinking something's left behind? night has had its laughing, when the street lights blind the stars. So now it's shedding rain to sing its sorrow, sorrow. It's time for me to sleep and to rest these thoughts away. There's gonna be another day, hey, when things will go my way, and there's other things to say, and there's other songs to play. And there'll be time enough for thinking come tomorrow, and it was just an any old kind of day, the kind that comes and slips away, the kind that fills up easy my life's time. The night brought any old kind of dark, I heard the ticking of my heart. Then why am I thinking something's left behind? Why am I thinking something's left behind?
It's Harry Chapin Radio, and we're interviewing Pat Fenton, the author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. Pat, what did you find out about Harry's work to end hunger?
What I did is actually go to the source, the Bill Ayers and all, which I had done years ago when I was interested in this. There's a long interview with Bill Ayers and James Chapin, the late James Chapin, his brother in there, which is, I'm just thinking I did it or set it up, but it's fascinating because there's probably no two people, the two people that knew him much more than anyone ever knew him. They knew his, any weaknesses any of us have, like he would have too. He's a human being, and he knew all his greatness. And Bill Ayers told me how they first got into world hunger and all, and it's a great story. I mean, it's in the book, and you know, Bill said he went up to, I forget where he went because I don't have that in front of me, but he went up to something to do, I think, with Mary Knoll, but I could be wrong. And he seen these films on hunger, and he said they were awful. And I said, then what did you see? It bothered you? It bothered the hell out of him. And he told me it was just awful, starving kids, and, you know, so thin and bones and all this. And he felt he had to do something about it. And he talked to Harry Chapin about that too, who was his very close friend. And he said, you know, this ain't going to be easy, Harry, you know, but you know, we could try some concerts and fundraisers. And they both agreed to go in and do it. And Bill told me that whole story about, you know, how Harry Chapin, in a lot of ways, it turned his life around, and this is my take on it, basically, because it defined to him, to Harry Chapin, I believe, who he was, that I'm doing something that's a very good thing to do, and I'll be able to sleep at night. And then this is what I feel. I could go out on, I'm saying this, not Bill Ayers or anything, I can go out on those stages and I can take in all of that glory, you know, and I can play that guitar and sing these songs and say, it's not like I'm being selfish and just saying, yeah, love me more. I'm giving something back, something really important, and I feel good about it. And then I think that's the way it was. So Bill did talk a lot about that, you know, about, you know, how he, it's defined in the book there about how they got into world hunger and what Harry felt about it, you know, and how he always had that kind of motto, like one for me, one for the other guy. That's probably the most important part of his story, you know.
Well, I don't know about inflation, who makes
but inflate each new taste sensation. I don't know why it rates, and though in my imagination I'm sure of how I feel, my present hesitation is I'm afraid it's real. Sometimes these days it's hard to choose the one right road to go, but this then is all I'm sure I know. I know when a child is hurting that the silence can be wrong. I know when old folks are helpless I can't just pass along. And I know when someone's hungry I can't just sing this song. And when I hear somebody crying I can't just wonder who that it could be. Well, I hear somebody crying now, and it sure sounds like America to me. Insecurity can beat me, darling, but sometimes that's where I'm at. So I hope that you can keep me, darling, so at least I can count on that. You see, some things stir me deeply, though I try to hide from pain. But wide awake or sleeping, some questions still remain. Sometimes these days it's hard to choose the one right road to go, but this then is all I'm sure I know. You see, I know when a child is hurting that silence can be wrong. And I know when their old folks helpless I can't just pass along. And I know when someone's hungry I can't just sing this song. And when I hear somebody crying I can't just wonder who that it could be. And I hear somebody crying now, and it sure sounds like America to me. Sometimes a simple question is much better than the truth. Sometimes we need our experience, sometimes we need our youth. Sometimes the signs point out to us that we have lost our way. Sometimes the times are times that look an awful lot like today. Sometimes these days it's hard to choose the one right road to go, but this then is all I'm sure I know. I know when a child is hurting that silence can be wrong. I know when their old folks helpless I can't just pass along. And I know when someone's hungry I can't just sing this song. And when I hear somebody crying I can't just wonder who that it could be. When I hear somebody crying now, and it sure sounds like America to me.
Tell me about Dogtown. What'd you find out up in Massachusetts?
Dogtown was interesting. I mean, I went up there and went to Dogtown. And Dogtown is, I was actually warned by a shopkeeper, a young lady in there. Me and my wife went in there. I brought Pat in with me. And I told her, I said, how do I get to Dogtown? You know, she gave me directions, and it's up the hill, you turn there. What it is, it's like he described. It's a huge tract of land, man, with nothing but rocks and boulders everywhere, you know. There's trails, dirt trails that seem to lead nowhere. Mosquitoes, it's a wilderness almost like, and it's eerie, trees and all. And you can actually get maps on it where you can see these women that lived up there by themselves. Somebody numbered what's left of their homes up there, and what they are, like holes in the ground, parts of basements. And I found like 4 of them. I got a hold of a map with the numbers on them. And I was warned, if you go up there, be very careful. And she said, I would never go up there alone. I'd like to ride my mountain bike up there. I was told, don't do it. She said a psycho got in there a couple of years ago, and he brutally attacked this woman in there. And Mike, I actually did research, and I found the newspaper article when I got home on the woman who was attacked. And it was so brutal what he did to this woman and left her in the rain dying that I really wouldn't even, nobody would really want to hear that story over the air. They would cringe, So we went up there, and I was warned, if you park your car, your windows could even get broken, or try to get broken into. We parked the car, put the club on it, walked in, we started walking around, and I spent probably about an hour and a half in there. And what you find out about it is there's these sayings painted all over rocks, these inspirational sayings. There's some guy, I found out many years ago, I'm not sure the actual year, went in there and he did that. He wrote these inspirational sayings. So it's got these weird connections. I found out that Thoreau was up there, Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Walden Pond. I researched this on my own. And he described how barren it was. Like all the rocks just fell out of heaven or something and landed there. There was another explorer up there once. He described it. I left with a big rock, by the way, which I gave to Sandy Chapin last week as a surprise. I had it on my bookshelf, and I gave it to her at a Long Island Cares fundraiser I was putting together out east. And so it's this eerie place, and what I left with is this, is like, how the hell did he come in here and walk out with that incredible song? I mean, it's almost like an epic, that song. It reminds me of it has like a Dickinson quality to it. It's probably one of the darkest damn songs I've ever heard in my life,
Yeah.
But it's brilliant.
Up in Massachusetts, there's a little spit of land. The men who make the maps, yes, they call the place Cape Ann. The men who do the fishing call it Gloucester Harbor Sound. But the women left behind, they call the place Dogtown. The men go out for whaling past the breakers and the fogs. The women stay home waiting, they're protected by the dogs. A tough old whaler woman who had seen 3 husbands drown, hold the population, and she named the place Dogtown. There's all these gray-faced women in their black widows' gowns, living in this graveyard granite town. Yeah, you soon learn there's many more than one way to drown. That's why you're going to the dogs here in Dogtown. And she speaks. My father was a merchant, all in the Boston fight. When my husband came and asked him for my hand, but little did I know then that a Gloucester whaler's wife marries but the sea salt and the sand. It took me up to Dogtown the day I was a bride.
We had 10 days together before he left my side. He's the first mate of a whaling ship, the keeper of the log. He said, farewell, my darling, I'm going to leave you with my dog. And I have seen the splintered timbers of 100 shattered hulls, all the silence of the granite and the screeching of the gulls. I've heard that crazy widow Cather walk the harbor as she raves at the endless rolling whisper of the waves. Sitting by the fireside, the embers slowly die. Is it a sign of weakness when a woman wants to cry? The dog is closely watching, the fire glints in his eye. No use to go to sleep this early, no use to even try. My blood beats like a woman's. I've got a woman's breasts and thighs. But where am I to offer them? To the ocean or the skies? Living with this silent dog all the moments of my life. He has been my only husband. Am I a widow or his wife? Yes, it's a dog town, and it's a bog town, and there's nothing around except the sea pounding granite ground, and this black midnight horror of a hound. I'm standing on this craggy cliff, my eyes fixed on the sea. 6 months passed when his ship was due. I'm a widow to be, for liking this half-living with the lonely and the fog. You need the bastard of the mating of a woman and a dog. And I have seen the splintered timbers of 100 shattered hulls, all the silence of the granite and the screeching of the gulls. I've heard that crazy widow Cather walk the harbor as she raves at the endless rolling whisper of the waves. At the endless rolling whisper of the waves. At the endless rolling whisper of the waves.
It's Harry Chapin Radio, and we're speaking with Pat Fenton, the author of the forthcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. And Pat, we're almost out of time here, but I've got to ask you, what is Harry Chapin's America?
Harry Chapin's America, that's a good question. It's kind of like, to me, from what I went out kind of looking for it, and that's part of the book. To me, it's kind of like a noir, Norman Rockwell version of America, kind of like a black and white version of Rockwellian America. It has that kind of a Norman Rockwell look, but there's also this dark side to it. And I think his America is those small towns, whatever's left of them. Sadly, he wasn't around to give us the other part of the America we're seeing. He didn't really see this awful drift in America we're in now. But his America is out there in the few bowling alleys and stuff to the left.
By the time I was 13, I started taking shape. At 18, I was so beautiful that the strangers started to gape. They said, enter the ultimate contest if you're as gorgeous as you seem. They said, please, 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 be our American dream. But late that night, beneath the grieving moon, there's a dazzling sight in my motel room. Or a grunting judge with his bulging eyes. I give my all for his cherished prize. Oh, why? Oh, I miss America. Crying on TV, silver-clad in satin rags, but everything's where it should be. I say, can you see? I say, can you see? After they showed me the game ball, they told me put on weight. They told me I'd be powerful. They told me I'd be great. And my Uncle Sam, he would coach me, his helmet on my head. And they said, please, 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 please win and beat the spread. But the new game plan that the owners had made meant that win or lose, there would be a trade. All the teams become a real gold mine, and the kids sold off for the bottom line. Oh, why? Oh, why? Mr. America, sweating on TV, the winner's joy from the battered boy, for everything's where it should be. I say, can you see? I say, can you see? We've come together, call it marriage or civil war. If it brings us to battle, baby, it must be worth our fighting for. Though today came up cloudy, there will be other days. Oh, please, 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 what else is there to say? But in a plywood spread by a plastic stream, and in separate beds with a borrowed dream, and with questions wide and the silence deep, we take 2 pills, so at last we'll sleep. Oh, why? Oh, why? Mr. and Mrs. America, something just the other night. He whispered it as I kissed him before I turned out the light. And of course he said it simple as only children can. He said, Daddy, 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 please, I'm ready to dream again.
Well, Pat Fenton, thank you so much for joining us to talk about your upcoming book, Harry Chapin's America, Remember When the Music. And when can fans expect to be able to put their hands on this piece?
Well, you know what? I've always been on the creative end of it. As soon as I'm kind of lazy when it's like trying to get a publisher or anything, and I hope to do the final draft of it, hopefully come in the winter or something with it, and they can get their hands on it when I can get some publisher out there to come up with some money and publish it or whatever. I don't know. I mean, hopefully it'll be soon. It should be in the winter. I'll say this is a solid draft of it, and I want to include some pictures of the Chapin family that most fans have never seen. That his mom, when I interviewed his mom down in Brooklyn, she had these huge boxes of these old black and white pictures and stuff, and he had them on the wall, and she asked me to get them down, and I mean, there were incredible pictures there. You know, a lot of people don't even know it, but I found out. She showed me this newspaper clip from the Daily News. Harry actually got hit with a taxi once when he was a young boy, living up in the village. He got hit with a yellow cab, you know, and the Daily News happened to be covering some story, and they took a picture of him, and he's in the arms of some rich woman, truly, who happened to come by with like a fur coat on, and she's cradling young Harry. And his dad told me the story about how it happened too. So some of those type of pictures, and some would be in it.
Talk about foreshadowing, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. When I seen that, I couldn't believe it. And there's a letter that I would include in with it that his mom showed me, where I think it's his cousin or something wrote him a letter, and he drew these stick figures of Harry getting hit with the cab. He goes, "Hey, got hit with that taxi," or something. I'm paraphrasing the hell out of this. How's it feel to be famous? You're in the Daily News and all. And then he says something like, you know, really though, I'm sorry, Harry. I hope you're okay, you know. But it's like wonderful stuff.
Wow.
So that stuff would be in there too. So hopefully in the winter I'll have it in my hand where I say, well, this is it. You know, as much as you ever finish a painting or a manuscript or anything, you know, there's always something you can do with it. And all kidding aside, we'll try to get a publisher, and this is a book that the Chapin family, you know, is very interested in, and they've been very good to me. Sandy Chapin has been very open and very good to me, and I'm close to them, and so hopefully we'll get the ball rolling and get it together, and I hope I'd love to see it published next year, whatever, you know. We'll do something with it. I mean, that's for sure. I kind of ended the book with one of the lines. I said, I went looking for it, and what I found was his version of America. It's a little banged up, you know. It's been knocked around, but it's still out there, you know. It's the America that's in his songs. And again, one would look at Norman Rockwell and say, well, I mean, was that really the America? I mean, you portrayed this America in your paintings and all. You make it sound like, you know, it was so innocent and all. But I think what Harry did was he gave us this, again, like a noir type version, a dark black and white version of America, where it wasn't all that simple Norman Rockwell look at it. He gave it the bleak side too. His America it's a complicated place, but it's in his songs, and I believe it's still out there. But it's getting. I'll tell you, Mike. Though, it's getting harder and harder to find it, man.
How you doing? I met Harry in 1978. I was in the studio. He was making a record in another studio, and he came smiling up to me and started talking to me. And 20 minutes went by, 30 minutes went by. Talked about everything, politics, music. I said, he's a nice guy. Next night I came in, Harry comes bounding up, smiling again. Starts talking to me. 30 minutes goes by. So finally, I used to try to hide from him. I'd come in and I'd ask the secretary if Harry was in the lobby. And I'd sneak in the studio. So we went out to California to mix, and I'm standing on this balcony, third floor of this motel, and I hear, hey. I look down and there's Harry. And he starts talking to me. Talks to me for about 40 minutes, standing down there looking up. He was trying to get me to do something, And he said one thing that I always remembered. He said, gee, I play one night for me and one night for the other guy. And later on, when I was trying to put my music to some pragmatic use, I remembered what he said. Not being bent to extremism, I wasn't as generous as he was, but, but he's probably laughing right now. Anyway, do this for you. Remember when the music came from wooden boxes strung with silver wire? And as we sang, the words would set our hearts on fire to believe in things. And so we'd sing. Remember when the music brought us all together to stand inside the ring? And as we joined hands, we'd meet in the refrain with dreams to live and hope to give. Remember when the music was the best of what we dreamed of for our children's time. And as we worked, we sang, 'cause we knew time was just a line. Gift to save, gift the future gave. Remember when the music was a rock that we could cling to so we'd not despair. And as we sang, we knew we'd hear an echo in the air. And if we weren't smiling then, we'd smile again. Yeah, and all the times I listened, and all the times I heard, and all the melodies I'm missing, and all the magic words, all the beautiful voices, and the choices we had then. I hope to find we got those kinds of choices once again. And I remember when Sandy sent me this tape, I listened to it and I said, gee, this is a little on the corny side. And I sat down and I tried to think what the song was about. And I guess there was a time when people felt that music provided you with a greater sense of unity, a greater sense of shared vision and purpose than it does today. In my generation, we were the generation that was going to change the world. Somehow we were going to make it a little less lonely, a little less hungry, a little more just place. But it seems that when that promise slipped through our hands, we didn't replace it with nothing but lost faith. And now we live in times are pretty shattered. I got my music, you got yours. The guy up the street, he's got his. And you could kind of sit back and say, not cynically, but truthfully, well, maybe all men are not brothers. And maybe we won't ever know who or what we really are to each other. But I think Harry instinctively knew that it was going to take a lot more than just love to survive. That it was going to take a strong sense of purpose, a duty, and a good clear eye on the dirty ways of the world. So in keeping his promise to himself, he reminds us of our promise to ourselves. And that tonight, alongside Harry, it's that promise that his spirit would have us remember and honor and recommit to. So do something, and may his song be sung. Remember when the music was aglow on the horizon of the newborn day, and as we sang the sun come up and chase the dark away, and life was good, for we knew we could. Remember when the music brought the night across the valley as the day went down, and as we hummed the melody, we'd be safe inside the sound, and so we'd sleep to awake with dreams and promises to keep.